Which
We're in
state?
Florida.
All
We're in
right.
Florida. They're in Georgia. We're contiguous states.
Oh! So, this river is the longest river we have in France with 221 miles. Right?
Navigational?
Only with traditional boats because it's protected and it's not canalized.
What does that
So,
mean?
We don't have any, we don't control the level of the water.
Locks.
Yeah, we don't lock. Yeah, locks.
It looks pretty shallow.
Yeah, it's beautiful and we had a lot of bird migration as
Okay.
it's protected, right?
Cool.
But it can also be really dangerous because sudden flooding can happen.
Flooding?
Sudden flooding.
Yeah. And I was used to say that the flooding were happening during winter until June 2016. We had a huge flooding.
Really?
So yeah. So that's why you see that the roads here along the river are built on a levee, on a dike. To
See
prevent,
we see garden down there.
yes, to prevent the cities from the water.
Flooding.
Yeah, from the flooding when it happens. You never know when it can happen. So
So that's community gardening.
yes, community gardening. Right, correct.
How does that work? Pretty well?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a perfect option.
I would play golf while my wife worked.
Yeah, right.
She would do
So when you say community garden, everybody can access that?
It's for people who has a certain low salary
Okay.
can have access to that.
qualified.
Oh, okay.
And
We do that in Atlanta. I'm familiar with community gardens. Okay, in Atlanta.
Is it working the same way in the US?
Well, but yeah, it's for people who do not have, yes.
Yeah.
And then people who do have salary, as you would, money, help to deliver, to pick and deliver to those who don't have a
Oh.
car or
Oh.
access. We don't have trains as much here, so there, so they deliver.
So climate change,
Yeah, it's already too warm for the season. And
I mean, did you think that caused the flooding possibly?
no, because since ever we had flooding on
Oh,
this
okay,
river.
okay, always.
It has always been like this. But the problem we have with the weather is that it's very warm. It's too warm for the season. We are afraid that we will be missing water because you're going to see a lot of fields during the day.
Okay.
The region is known to be the wheat attic of France.
The what?
The
Wheat.
wheat attic of France.
Wheat.
We produce wheat, barley, rapeseed.
we drove down from Normandy.
So you saw
We
them.
saw, I was amazed
Yeah.
at the farming. I just I didn't know.
I don't know if it's as huge as it is in the US because you have huge farms too.
Yes, we do.
Big
But-
America.
Especially in the Midwest. Yes.
But regarding the size of France, we are the region producer.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So that's the breadbasket.
Yeah.
We love the trees along the highway, the canopy.
So you were saying about the area?
Yes, that we have a lot of fields. We produce rapeseed, barley, wheat, sunflowers, and corn.
That's all of them.
And we need water for that, so we are a little bit worried this year.
Are you from this area?
Yes, I grew up the village next to Chambord. So
Wow.
the program of the day will be that we go this morning to Chenonceau. The nickname of this chateau is the ladies' chateau, so it's a very feminine chateau.
Catherine de Medici, right?
Catherine de Medici, we're gonna talk about her.
History major.
Alright. And then for the lunch we go in a smaller chateau, a private owned one, called Ville-Savin.
Yes, sir.
And this afternoon we're gonna see the big one, Chambord. And you're gonna see the difference between what I call a feminine chateau and a more masculine. It's really different.
How do you say feminine in French?
Féminin,
Femina?
féminin, et masculin.
Masculin, right.
And I'm really glad that we are going for the lunch at Ville-Savin because it's a smaller one and a lot of people from the US coming into the region are only doing the big ones. And we have 103 chateaux in the region, right? So the small one are like in the shadow of the big one. if I can say that.
So, Marion, in the United States, there's a really big TV show. Well, it was for a lot of people, and it was called Escape to the Chateau. The British family who bought
Chateau?
an old chateau and made it into a bed and breakfast.
In France?
Yes.
All right.
And so my wife and I loved that show. We watched all 7 seasons.
Gosh, dog it.
And it was called Escape to the Chateau. It was one of our...
Seemed like it would run out of.
No, it was just great. It's a reality show, but it's about this family that just... And they talk about the plumbing, the heat, just all the stuff that they had. You know, they put an elevator into a 400-year-old chateau. And she found old French newspapers from the 1800s up in the attic and used them to wallpaper. She's just very creative. Anyway, I can't wait to see the small.
Well, you could do the tour, correct? Chris?
No.
Chris could do the tour.
Do you know where, or maybe one of the chateaux?
Yes. So it's south. It's in the Loire Valley. Let me look it up. I'll get back.
I'm not sure I will know this one, but tell me the name and maybe I'll...
I will.
Yeah. We're amazed at how many roundabouts there are.
Yeah. Welcome in France.
Welcome to France,
You
yes.
are world famous.
But that's really interesting what you're saying regarding renovation, because why, the first question I have to ask you, why do we have so much chateau in the region?
That was my question too. Were they all in the same century?
They are mainly from the 16th century.
Okay.
So do you feel comfortable when I say 16th century?
So
It means
1500s.
1500s. Yes, it's okay for everybody. Perfect. So why do we have so much chateau from this time?
Religion?
Let her
The
say.
Kings, Louis. This is the vacation area, right? Or a second home? No, mistresses. They built the. Okay, no.
Kings were there, of course. That's
I
why
thought they
we
built
have
them
so
for
much
their
chateau.
mistresses.
But all the
Really?
chateaux were not royal residences. No, other members of the court, the nobility, wanted to do like the
Nobility.
king and build their own chateau. So it's not 100 royal residents. No.
Just nobility people?
In fact, what happened is that 15th century we had a war with the English.
Y'all warred a lot. Y'all fought a lot.
It's called the 100-Year Wars.
I remember studying.
And the English, they took all the north of France, including Paris. So the kings took refuge here because this river, the Loire River, was like a protection. And you also have to keep in mind that 16th century, the river was the main channel of communication, travel using boats. You have to imagine a lot of boats at this time. So the kings took refuge here because Paris was occupied. And they were ruling the kingdom from there for around 90 years. And that's why they started to build a lot of chateaux.
So what is this place here to the right?
To the right, it's the mini chateau. If you are coming with kids, it's perfect.
They
okay.
can play.
Yeah, and they will see 100 chateaux, but in small size.
Oh, okay.
So during this 100-year war,
Yeah.
who was the winner most of the time? Do you know? Or can
It's hard because 116 years, so it was English.
But you said refuge
Yes,
for the kings or the power brokers.
Yes, because they took the north of Paris.
I understand,
north
with the
of
water.
France, and then Paris, and then you have the story of Joan of Arc.
Oh gosh,
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yeah.
Joan of Arc.
She had a bad demise, and she
Yeah.
got a raw deal.
She was the one who she was hearing voices.
Yeah, wrote her up as crazy.
Some say they were crazy, some say other things, but she came to see the future king Charles VII. He was hidden in Chinon, near the Loire River. And she came to see the king and she explained him, okay, I heard voices that I can free the city of Orléans. So always in along the Loire River, but on the way to Paris. So she said, I can free the city of Orléans. I've heard that you will be crowned as king, and I will free Paris.
This is Joan of Arc.
This is Joan of Arc. So the king gave her help for horses and some soldiers. They went to Orléans. It was like the period, like everybody was thinking that we were losing this war, right? And she freed Orléans. Charles VII was crowned as king, but she failed trying to free the city of Paris. And the king more or less abandoned her and gave her to the English. That's the way she was captured by the English, and she was burned alive. At the end of
English do that to her?
yeah.
Because she
But
was crazy.
because it was a little bit too much to have a woman fighting at this time,
Yup.
winning battles. I mean,
Winning,
she
yeah.
succeeded in
That's
that.
insulting. That is
Yeah.
insulting.
Winning battles, and then they were thinking that she was a little bit too much, too crazy, and it was not supposed to be like this, hearing voices from God. So that they thought she was maybe a danger, a threat.
So, at this point in French history, was the empire at its peak, or can you say?
It was just king at this time. It was not an empire.
Oh, no empire?
No empire.
What,
No,
like the British Empire and the
It was-
Roman Empire and the French?
It was
Just France.
in France. It was a king. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, you had not traveled around the world.
George, you need
setting
to
up-
ask her what
setting
that
up
symbol
other
means.
Countries.
Sorry.
That sign.
19th century,
Okay.
but it didn't last too much.
So is this wheat here?
Yes, it's sweet.
It's been cut. I think it's been. It looks like it's already been. No,
Those are some big
They've not
fields.
harvested it.
And that chateau is Chateau de la Motte Husson.
Château de la Motte-Husson,
That symbol.
And it's in Martigny-sur-Mayenne.
so Mayenne. So it's more on the west side of the region.
That's the one.
That will be terrible. I mean, to maintain the chateau, this stone is really freeable. We're gonna see that inside the chateau.
I love the roses.
There's no
Those are
quarry,
pretty.
and it doesn't
There's
stand
one.
up.
There's one, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
And even more, since 1840, we had special.
That
rules.
sign right there.
Ah, it's that you have the priority if there's other roads crossing. You
Oh.
have the priority. You
Oh.
have to stop on the right or on the
Oh,
for example,
okay.
They're
Okay.
coming.
Did you
on the left,
understand
but
that,
they
George?
have to
Yeah.
stop.
I got it.
I can
Good,
go
thank you.
We drove down
Saw
from
that a lot.
Normandy.
I saw that a lot. Just didn't know what it meant.
So yes, it's very expensive. Since 1840, you have a lot of rules. You need to work with specialized workers that are using the same tools that they were using 16th, 17th century. So it's very expensive.
These homes here these homes here, would they be considered expensive for French or no? Like these
The region is not that expensive. I mean, you can buy a house starting from 200,000 euro.
Uh-huh.
It's not really expensive because you will have a small garden, but it can go
Sure.
up, of course, and the closer you are from a chateau, a listed monument, or a city center, the more expensive it will be.
Okay. But as a region, it's not as expensive as other areas.
No, the prices increased after COVID, of course, because
sure.
the speed train goes to Tours city, and a lot of people from Paris, they're moving here. They want to have a
Right.
house and a garden. They understood that Paris is nice, but
Crowded.
during a lockdown, when you have your small flat, it's not that comfortable.
Right.
So
That's
a lot-
happening in the United States also.
Yes.
I think it's happening everywhere.
Out of the major cities
And COVID
into
really
places like
motivated.
Rule.
the Midwest or Florida.
Right.
We live in a rural area, and we've been overwhelmed
Yeah.
by people leaving the large cities. Even
Yeah.
in Florida.
And
coming
they
to
pay
North-
lots for our homes now.
Yes, that's the same here, and there's not that much houses to buy
talk some
here.
politics.
And the day they put the offer, it's sold
Sold
in the day.
today. Here too, huh?
Yeah, here
This
now.
is
Yes.
gorgeous. What city is this, Lucy?
Chenonceau.
Oh, we are in Chenonceau.
Civray-en-Touraine. It's part of it. Civray-en-Touraine.
So is this considered Loire Valley?
Yes.
Okay.
It's considered as Loire Valley, but there's a kind of misconception regarding the Loire Valley because all the chateaux are not built along the Loire River, but also along its tributaries. So Chenonceau, that we're gonna see in a few minutes, is built along the Cher River, tributary of the Loire River. And Chambord along the Cosson River, tributary of the Loire River too. But we keep the name Loire Valley.
For the
But it's kind of marketing things, right?
Chateau.
If you look on your right hand side here, there's the first chateau from the 18th century. This one has been turned into a B&B, right?
Oh, wow.
This is one of, I would say, the two options you have to earn enough money to renovate, to restore the chateau. You can turn it into an hotel, a restaurant, or open to public. That's the best way
To survive.
to survive.
We
because-
actually stayed in a chateau
Oh,
our first 3 nights
okay.
in Paris.
Turning into an hotel or it was an hotel.
Hotel.
Hotel,
Yeah.
yes.
It's really common, I would
They,
say.
the rehab was beautiful.
Oh, it was
turned out
beautiful,
really
yes.
pretty.
Yeah.
A lot of English are doing this.
Yes. But I think that when they understand that the price they paid the first year, they will have to pay it each year on renovation, local taxes, maintain gardeners, workers. I'm not sure they stay. Oh, depends. If you have a lot of money, of course, it's okay. But a lot of people think the price is not too expensive, but they don't take in
Maintenance.
Yes,
The roses are so beautiful here.
Yes,
the
they
roses season. So,
And the lavender, I see. Lots of lavender.
Yes.
and you know, gardening in the region is quite an art. It's an hobby, and even if you have a small garden, you have vegetables, flowers.
Yeah.
So these would be
vineyards.
white grape.
Yes,
What?
wine vineyard.
Vouvray, no.
No, Vouvray is on the other bank of the river, the appellation
Go.
Vouvray.
Okay, and this is the right
This
side.
is Chenonceau. Yes, we are left side, and it's on the right
Right
bank.
side. So the gauche,
Rive gauche.
rive gauche, et rive droite.
Yeah, rive droite. Ah, you
So
learn
is this a
French.
busy season?
Sorry?
Is this a busy season?
It's starting to be the high season.
Yeah.
But July and August we have a lot of French people, so we have a high season for foreign tourism, French tourism.
Did you see the series that 60 Minutes had on about climate change, how it affects the grapes in Spain and France?
No.
It was incredible story.
What's the name of the
60 Minutes is the name of the American
60
show.
Minutes. Okay.
And they did a deep dive with the vineyards, 400-year-old vineyards, and they were talking about how things have changed with the climate. Winters are
Right?
Okay. And what time did you say to meet back? 11:45?
11:45.
At the van.
We leave at 11:40.
Oh, okay. All right.
5
Leave.
minutes. 5 minutes.
A few strong-minded women had an important role in the different steps of the life of this chateau. This alley was added in the 19th century by Mrs. Pelouse. She was the owner. She came from a wealthy family. She bought the chateau, and she created this alley to give an access from the train station. Because after a lot of boats in the Loire River used as the main way of transportation, 19th century was the arrival in France of the train station, the railway. So it changed a lot of things. So she created this alley, and left and right you have what we call an informal garden. So it looks like a forest, right? And there's trees from all around the world that were planted. You can see Sophora from Asia, Sequoia from California, Cedar of Lebanon. They say that it was to show that you were open to the world. My version is that it was to show that you had enough money to buy this kind of trees. This is not the official version, but trust me. No, there were a stop here, but not a private station.
Get off the train.
Yes. In front, yeah, they had a stop. And there were also a maze that you see here. But the maze was already there in the 16th century. 16th century we had maze. They were not higher than a knee. They said that it was the idea was not to get lost but to elevate your spirit, and it was also the perfect place to have a rendezvous with your lover. But only by night. Why? Because we don't go 16th century, we don't go into the gardens during the day. Do you have an idea why? The sun is a good point. The trend is to stay as pale as you can. If you're pale, that means you live in a chateau. If you're tan, you're working outside.
Oh.
So we don't go, we have beautiful gardens, the formal gardens. We use them only at the end of the afternoon.
Non, c'est un café qui a coulé au sport.
There's the apothecary of the clinic. During your free time. To the 14th century. And in our left-hand side, this is a formal garden. We've seen a non-formal made of forest trees. Formal garden is the trend in the 16th century. So here, everything is really symmetric. And this is where we go outside, 16th century, by night, to have receptions with our guests.
Not the peasants. The peasants didn't get to come get them.
The peasants?
Peasants.
Ah, peasants. No. People. It's also the rich people that accepting what the king was trying to change.
Okay. Who was the king at the time?
Louis XVI.
Okay, and then who led the peasants?
He was leading them.
He was leading the king himself. He wanted to overthrow what we had.
He had help, but he was the one in charge.
So he was
On voit de différentes périodes. He was trying to adapt because he was understanding the people, but at the end of the finance of the wars in Italy for King Francis I that we're going to talk about this afternoon in Chambord. Right? Thomas Boyer was in charge of the war, the finance of the war, because French people at this time, while Portuguese and Spanish are sending boats to discover India and America, we are focused in Italy. We fight in Italy. We will send explorers later, right? So we want the north of Italy, and Thomas Boyer is fighting for the king. He bought this land in Chenonceau, where there were a medieval chateau here, medieval fortress. The main difference with a medieval from 12th to 14th century and a chateau starting from 15th, 16th century is the defensive purpose of a fortress that is not anymore in a chateau 15th, 16th, 17th century. Why? Because since 15th century, we know that 16th century, sorry, we know that even if a battle happens, it will not happen near the chateau. It will happen in the field. So we don't need anymore these defensive towers. Okay? And what is happening is that the kings fighting in Italy, they will discover the Renaissance style in Italy, the Italian Renaissance style. And they will come back with a lot of artists. The most famous one, Leonardo da Vinci, right? King Francis will ask him to come 1516. Stay close to him in the Clos Lucé in Amboise. So they will come back, fall in love with this architecture style, but they will adapt it to the French. That's what That's why we call it French Renaissance style, to the architecture, the way we know how to build chateaux. So Thomas Boyer will destroy the medieval fortress that was over there, and he kept the tower. We always kept the place, because if there were a chateau here before, there's a reason. It was strategic, so let's keep the place. Let's keep a part of this medieval place as a symbol of power, and also it's a perfect place to live in there. When you are building the chateau, you have a place to live. Just smart and simple reason. So there were a fortress, they kept the tower, and the two arches of the bridge here were already there. You see that there were an opening, there were a drawbridge here. Because where you see the main building of the chateau, there were a water mill. So he also destroyed the water mill to start this first main building. Okay? So it's a square building with towers on the corner. This is what we know how to do in France. What is the Italian inspiration? The openings. Fortress, we had small windows. Now we can have huge windows. We can have dormer windows. And this stone, this local limestone, contrast stone, is perfect for this style, for the decoration, because it's really friable and easy to sculpt. So you have the pediments on the dormer windows. Everything is sculpted. You have the candelabras. This is what comes from Italy, but adapted to our architecture. The problem with Thomas Boyer is that he was accused of embezzlement, stealing money from the king. So when he died in Italy during the war, his son, who inherited the chateau, gave the chateau back to the king, just to say, okay, we're sorry, this is yours. That's how 1535 this chateau became a royal residence, but it was first a private residence. Okay? King Francis was not really interested with this chateau. He was in charge of Chambord. You will see the difference. But his son, who inherited after the death of King Francis, his son Henry II, who became king, took Chenonceau. And Henry II was married to a famous queen, Catherine de' Medici, from Italy. From Italy. You have to keep in mind that 90%, I'm sorry, of the marriage are political marriage.
Sure.
We are focused on Italy, let's marry an Italian woman.
Peace.
Strategy.
Peace strategy, I would say. So they are not in love. They are not in love.
We do that in America.
And we still do that now, so... They are not in love, so guess what?
Not in love.
There's a second woman, a mistress, a lover. Diana. Diana, Henry II, the king, and Diana, they are really in love, okay? And what is happening is that the king will offer the chateau not to the queen, but to the mistress, to the lover, to Diana. So I just let you imagine the reaction of the queen.
Bad relation.
So Diana and the king, they are having their love story. They love to go hunting. Diana is a huntress. But remember, this forest here, only from 19th century. It was not there 16th century. The forest is over the river. So Diana asked the architect to create a bridge to cross the river and be able to go hunting. So imagine the bridge without the double deck gallery above, just the bridge. It was the second step of the construction. And then the problem is that the king died during a tournament. He received a piece of a lens in the eye that touched the brain. So King Henry died. And what is happening?
The queen
The
got it.
mistress lost her precious influence. And it's the perfect time for the queen to take her revenge. Thank you for coming, but now you can leave. Out of my chateau. So she was not so bad. I'm going to tell you the relationship they had together. She was not so...
Bitter.
Yeah, she offered her another chateau in exchange. So she was not that bad with her. But it was a symbol for the queen to retake the chateau, right? And what is important is that Henry and Catherine, they They will have 10 kids together. 3 sons that will become kings. This is the first. He was king only 1 year, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
that's funny.
His ear?
Yes, an ear infection.
Yes.
Correct. Wow. So they had 3 sons that will become king. So they are an important family in France. And Catherine, she will rule the kingdom because 2 of their sons will be too young to rule. So she will have an important role, and that's important for her to take Chenonceau back. And the king is not there. Diana is far away.
Excuse me, Henry had 10 kids with Catherine
With the
before
queen.
he got the
Before he died,
lance?
yes. So she wants the queen, everybody to forget about Diana, so she will have this 2-deck gallery above the bridge. So no one remembers that there were a bridge without nothing before. It looks like it's always been a bridge and a 2-deck gallery.
It looks like Florence.
Yeah, it looks like
The-
il Palazzo Vecchio,
Thank you.
Corridor Vasari, Firenze. So these are the different steps. So always keep in mind when you have a look on the chateau, maybe it has not always been done in one time. Yes?
It looks just like that. Like, really, the upper.
Yeah. So let's have a look inside, please. The garden, the chateau. What did you do? The home garden. So this is Catherine garden. Ground floor is a place that is open to members of the court to come and visit the king. The first step is to come here and to leave your weapons. It was the rule with King Francis and Henry II. Each king will have different rules. That's what we call the etiquette. The etiquette. The rules of the king on how to behave in presence of the king. So this room, you see that it's very high. Fireplace that is very big, but it's not functional regarding the size of the room. And big opening without glass until the 18th century. Why? Because the court is married. He's moving from the Chateau and he's moving with his furniture. When the king is not there, really that the chateau is empty. That's why you're gonna see some chests. Now we put all the furniture in the chest, and by horse we move from the chateau to another one. So we don't have windows, it's too expensive. We will have windows 18th century when we start to settle in the chateau to stay. And as it's not efficient enough, fireplace, we put the tapestry on the wall to try to hold the walls. You have to imagine you have really more quality with gold thread. And to give you an idea, that's the same with the floors. Look at that, it's the original floors from the 16th century. So imagine that it was everywhere like this.
Limestone here, limestone here, limestone.
It's not really limestone, it's teal. No, I think
Tile.
tile. Sorry. And also keep in mind that before 1840, we could do whatever we wanted. So Mrs. Pelouse made a lot of renovation. For example, this fireplace has been renovated. You see that it doesn't look like an original one, right? It's beautiful, but it's also the way that people in the 19th century saw it was with no rules on what they do what they want. Sometimes it was not really like that. The same for the future. If you ask me, was it the bed was there? Feeling that because there were moving, so it was the right period, the right size, just for you to know that. No, maybe the king doesn't sleep in this one. We don't know. So the first step was to leave your weapon. Second step was go and see God at the chapel to tell your intentions. What is really interesting, we talk about manuscript. If you look at the glasses here, we have English writings in the walls that are called the gods of manuscripts. One of the sons of Henry II and Catherine de Medici was Francis II. He was married to manuscript. And the gods of manuscript were writings in the walls. So we have this from manuscript. What is interesting in this chapel? First of all, the windows, they are not the original one. During World War II, you know that bridges were strategy. The chateau wasn't bombed, but they bombed the gardens beneath the chateau.
World War I? Two, not one.
The Germans.
It could have been the Germans or the French resistance, trying to sometimes destroy bridges, not to give access to
Yeah.
But this time it was the Germans. They missed the chateau, they bombed the garden, and they destroyed the windows. So those ones are from 1954.
The stained glass?
Yes, thank you. And what is interesting from the 16th century is this private tribune here that gave access to the three daughters-in-law of Henry and Catherine, the three queens, to have access to the mass in private above the court without mixing with the court. We are and you were asking me about this. Mrs. Toulouse, the owner of the 19th century, she wanted to be buried here, but she spent too much money in the she had to leave before she died in South Africa. So there's no one. No one.
That's well-laid plans, didn't it?
No one is
So,
They will teach her medicine. Okay? Imagine you are taught all of this and then 13 you're
we are
married to a
here
guy who
on what
lives with a
looks
baby.
like a bedroom. It's a para bedroom. We are not sleeping ground floor. Question of security, we sleep first floor. But there's a bed on a small stage to prevent from the humidity of the floor first, and it's like a stage. The king and the queen, they receive members of the court sitting on the bed to talk. And this is also the place where a few will happen in public. Your wedding night. And it was happening in public. When I say in public, it's not open to everybody like a show, but we need witnesses to prove that the queen will have babies from the king. So the king and the queen, when they are staying together, because they usually have two different bedrooms, but when they are together, there's always someone staying.
Wow.
You will give birth in public,
conceived in public?
and you die in public. That means that your body stays 2 days for people to try their dead king or dead queen. So for example, those chairs, or I was talking about the furniture, they are originally one from the 16th century. No one can tell you if they were in this chateau or another. But it's the right time, the right period. And here is Queen Catherine, Catherine de Medici. So she's wearing black because black was the mourning color in Italy. In France at this time we were wearing white. So she's wearing black because at the end she's been queen 12 years with the king and she's been a widow 30 years.
She wears black. Symbolic.
And so you will see, if you see other paintings, she's always in black. She's been more a widow than a queen. She was still queen, but then it was their sons who were ruling the kingdom.
This painting has always been here.
No, this one is from 1901 from Sauvage. Chateau de Sauvage de 1901. You have some paintings paintings that are private collections, so I won't be able to tell you what it is painting, but it's always written to it, the Christ, before it's going to the cross. H for Henry, right? The enter twin C for Henry. When you mix both the H and the enter twin C, what do you read? You just said it?
Yeah.
A D? It was like that, hein? Il a mélangé les deux et Henri et Catherine et ça forme un D. C'est assez provocateur. Stone. Do you see the difference in how?
I know the drops.
Yes. This is the best way for me to explain all three of the system. On voit les différences de niveau des pièces. This one has been changed. This one not yet. Le calcaire, ça s'effrite énormément. So this gallery, we are above the bridge, right? 60 meters long, 18 windows. It's the perfect place to have receptions on the 16th century because at this time we do line dances.
Oh.
It's perfect to go dancing on line. It's also perfect to have a walk during the day because we don't go outside to gossip with your friends. And what is interesting is that during World War II, 20th century, the owner was family Meunier. It's still the same family owning the chateau. The chocolate Meunier from the Nestlé group. Okay?
Nestle, okay.
Yeah, they own the chateau, and they bought the chateau 1913, 1 year before World War I.
1913 they got this thing,
Yes.
Nestle.
Yes, and it's still the great-grandson that is owning that now. And the daughter of the owner at this time was a nurse, so she convinced the government during World War I to turn this gallery into an hospital.
Soldier.
Because she had 2-deck gallery. She was a nurse with friends that were doctors and nurse too. That's why you see here that 2,254 injured people were saved here. If you want to have a look in the outbuilding outside near the apothecary, there's a reconstitution of this hospital. And we have pictures of injured people fishing directly into the river from the bed.
Wow.
Nice hospital.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's a benefit that you don't normally see. You can fish, you sick son.
And another crazy story regarding World War II this time. North of France was occupied first by the Nazis and the south was free, the Vichy.
Vichy, that's right.
The demarcation line was the Cher River, meaning that
Boundary.
the exit was free, the entrance was occupied.
Did everybody flee to the south?
We knew that they helped people. We don't have numbers and names. It was not a good idea to keep names on a paper at this time, but we knew that they helped people by night to cross the occupied zone to prison.
With the Vichy treasonous, traitors.
Oh, yes.
Because they helped round up the Jews.
You know what? A small story because in the region, Pétain met Hitler.
That's right.
That's in the region that they were meeting in a train station, in a tunnel. They were having a handshake, and a few days after they signed this Vichy. Yeah. Hitler never asked Pétain to give the kids, the Jewish kids. It's Pétain who said, okay, we will give you the Jewish, including the kids. Hitler never asked for that. So we did worse than what was asked for. Yeah. Bad memories. I highly recommend you to go there. The kitchens and the arches of the bridge.
that 500 years ago.
Yeah.
The same thing like this. I wanted to show you here. This is Diana. The allegoric painting as an entrance. You have the house, the dog, the antlers, the arrow. What is really interesting with Diana, that was
Her children.
she had, oh no, it's cherubim babies. It's the way we painted allegoric painting. It's not her.
But she didn't have any children?
She had two, good question. She had two, but not with the king.
Oh.
She had two before.
Oh.
Because there's something interesting regarding Diana. She's older than the king. She's 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
He's got bad taste.
She was his teacher. She took part of his education. She was really close to his mother. It looks like our president. Emmanuel Macron is married to his own teacher.
Wow.
Story, same story.
Wow.
Speaking of Jill.
Oh, yeah.
The beauty secret at this time is some short color. He has this color, we call it Venetian blonde, blonde Venetian from Venice, Italy, this time. But the secret is to create a mixture made of ashes, to have sugar, ashes, leaf powder, and horse stayed there in a very gloomy atmosphere, so it's very
The son was killed.
Yes.
Was killed. How was he killed?
by a monk because he didn't have an heir and he was giving the throne to his cousin and his cousin was Protestant and not Catholic. So French people were not really happy with that because they were
Gotta kill the guy because he don't have no hair.
and he wanted to give the throne to a Protestant king. That's the main
Conspiracy.
Yeah. So this room of Louise de Lorraine the widow, really with the gloomy atmosphere, is interesting.
We go downstairs for the kitchen. Wow, this is massive.
Carcasses over there. They got a lot of big knives and copper pots. This is the most dry place.
I think we found
All these beautiful flowers.
Really cool.
They look real.
They like the stove.
Yeah. Wow. These flowers are real. Yeah. Yeah. This is massive.
Is the Danish over there? Dining area?
Sure.
They had some dining areas.
Yeah. Lavender. Copper is beautiful. Butchery.
Cut up The deer.
Yeah, look at the wild hog. Wow, those were some big copper kettles.
Warm.
The sitting room. Upstairs to the bedrooms. Here we go.
Boy, did his fancy work.
Love the tapestry. Yeah. Great.
I think they were at opulence.
What?
Their opulence. Ridiculous to me.
I love it.
People starving to death in hinterlands.
I know.
People living like different not as opulent.
Tapestry. Big cheers. So the tapestry on the wall was to help out with the warmth. Oh, look. Here. Playing the piano or organ. Singing. Yes.
It's narrow. It's narrow.
Yeah. Suite of 6 tapestries. No, Catherine was not the queen. Oh,
Diana was.
oh yeah, that's right. She is the queen. Yeah, this is the queen's. Catherine the queen's bedroom. With all this tapestry on the wall. Look at this ceiling here. All right, George, turn around. Say hi. Okay.
Thank you.
Beautiful garden out there. All right, let's go to the garden. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Yeah, we're not shy. Yeah. Sorry you ain't gonna get that. You got to